So when I'm presenting, I can't see you. I wish I could. But so if you have a question, just pop it in the chat. And thank you, Carrie, for putting that in the chat. So my name is Monica Spillman, and I love sketchnoting. I always have. I used to do it as a child, and I didn't know what I was doing. And then back in the journey, when I first began my journey to Google certified educator, I got on Twitter a lot, and I found these awesome people called Carrie Baughcum, Tanny McGregor, Sylvia Duckworth, Mike Rohde. So I've been in the world of sketchnoting for, oh my goodness, I think it is 6 years now. So in one way or another, I have sketchnoted online or whatever for 6 years, but I've always done it as a child or whatever. So we have some special guests with us that are going to share. Carrie Baughcum is in Chicago, or the Chicago area, Arlington Heights, and wrote an awesome book called My Pencil Made Me Do It. But before the book came her sketchnoting with her class and her sweet little mascot she's going to tell you about here. And then Miss Tanny McGregor, Hamilton County should be familiar with her very well because our shared reading handbook has references to her comprehension book. What's it called again, Tanny?
It's called Comprehension Connections.
Connections. I want to say concepts. I should have tagged it here, but she wrote last year. This book came out, Ink and Ideas, and it is absolutely beautiful. I have it right here next to me, as well as Carrie's book. So they're going to share with us in just a minute. So before that, we love our learning targets. So we're going to go over sketchnoting, what it is, who should sketchnote and why, and then how in the world do you sketchnote? How can I do this? How do I do this? And how do you sketchnote? So you can do it for yourself or for your students. And there's a kind of a progression. I always say writing is a progression. You can write a list for a shopping list, or you could write a novel, but they're all writing. And so sketchnoting to me is in that same kind of spectrum. You can do very basic things, just like what you see on the screen could almost be a sketch note. You've got the target to trigger a thought, oh, this is something I'm aiming at, and then these are things we're going to check off. So, from this to the most elaborate things you might see online, which are sometimes intimidating, but absolutely beautiful. So that's what we're going to cover. Real quickly, the word sketchnoting came from a guy named Mike Rohde, but he didn't invent the concept. He just coined the word. And so he wrote this awesome book called the Sketchnote Handbook. I also have that one. Tons of resources in there, and a lot of times it goes on sale on Amazon on the digital version. But, basically purposeful doodling. It's not the absent-minded doodling that you do when you're listening to a phone call and you're just kind of drawing circles or doing your mandalas or whatever your Zen doodles. It's not the same as like a Zen doodle where you're just kind of like occupying your brain. You're really thinking about what you're hearing. Stick figures are totally acceptable. And so sketchnoting is purposeful doodling while you're listening to something of interest, whether it's interest because you have to learn it or because you love it. So who should sketchnote? Everybody should sketchnote. But in my experience, struggling learners definitely benefit, English language learners, and even, in my world with the little ones, pre-K and non-readers, we're lucky in the primary grades because that's part of our good teaching practice. Our pedagogy is to use, or best practices is to use visuals. But then when the kids get older, it seems like people take that away from them. And Carrie and Tanny will probably speak to that also. So one example from my life, 2 years ago, I worked with a 9th grader in Rome, Georgia. She had been in the U.S. for just a few months, and she was thrown right into 9th grade lit. And so I was getting my English language learner endorsement, ESOL endorsement, and I tutored her for just probably 2 weeks, taught her the strategy of taking her vocabulary words and drawing a picture for the word, like here's concerted. And so these people are working together. You can see stick people in a circle. And then she wrote out the sentence. And so and then the opposite was where they were separate. You can see she had all these visuals that she pulled from a place called the Noun Project. It's just basically little icons. So she copied those, and these are her words. When I don't understand, I look up a picture and then I understand. And she took her vocabulary scores in lit from 70s to 90s. And so her teacher was amazed, and she finally told me she didn't need me anymore. So I was glad to be out of that job. And so I'm not going to go over all of these because hopefully you have the link to the slides, but there are so many ways to try out sketchnoting in a slow, low entry kind of way. I think one of the greatest things we could do right now for our students is maybe have them draw their schedules, ask them to draw their day, what it looks like, because it's all about them. And at the end of the presentation, there's a link to a slide called Draw Your Selfie Sketch Note. So if we help students share about themselves and connect that way, that might be something that would really help during this time of what seems like isolation. Thankfully, I don't feel so isolated because I get to connect with you guys, but I don't know how the kids are feeling. And so these ideas are here for you, and I'll be glad to touch base with you about those later if you want to email me. But I would love to go ahead and get our special guests started. So the first one that I would like to throw it over to is Miss Tanny, and I've linked you her Twitter handle here. She has amazing resources. This is a hand-drawn template that she has created that she shares in workshops. So Tanny, can I ask you to try to present?
Yeah, sure.
All you do is
let me
take your
see.
cursor.
I think I've got it.
You got it?
I think so. Let's see. I'm going to share now. And it looks like it's going to work, I think. Oh, good. Can you see?
Yes, but I'm going to stop presenting.
Okay.
If I can.
So can you see my hand-drawn little note page from my notebook?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, Monica, this is such a treat. What a great way to start the day.
Aww.
And connecting with you all anytime is great anyway, but it's wonderful to see your faces and hear you. But I was just thinking about that template that Monica just showed, and you know, right before I might use a template to launch this practice with a group of kids or teachers or anyone, I might want to just spend a little bit of time in the why, just like Monica did. But I have used this page from one of my paper notebooks over and over again, and you'll see these 4 green arrows, and they're each pointing to one of the benefits. There are a lot more benefits, I believe, than this. I'm sure my colleagues would agree. But I'll ask a question to go along with each of the green arrows. I might ask kids for boosting recall, for example. I might ask them, have you ever been reading something, and right after you read it, you can't remember a thing you just read? And I'll raise my hand, and almost everyone in the class will readily admit that that happens. And I'll just let them know that we've got proof to say that sketchnoting can help us with that. It can help us remember more. It can help us remember it longer. And then likewise with the other green arrows, like deepening comprehension, I might ask, have you ever been reading something and right smack dab in the middle of it, you realize, that you can't even understand what's going on, or you've lost meaning somehow. Sometimes I can speak from experience about this. I can sort of sketch myself out of a corner when it comes to comprehension. Sometimes the deceleration that happens when you're sketchnoting actually helps you deepen your comprehension because your thinking's getting deeper. And then likewise with maintaining focus and staying engaged, we've got so many studies to suggest, and we have lots of practical experiences that back it up now, thankfully, thanks to all my colleagues' work too, that show us that we can actually keep ourselves from daydreaming, and we can actually sort of tune out all the noise in our heads and stay focused better. So here's that sketch map one more time. It's just really simple, actually, but I got a hold of some 11 by 17 paper one day and decided I would just make some kind of a support because, and this actually came out of a conversation with my editor at Heinemann. She said, I'm so intimidated by the blank page that I feel like I need some kind of graphic organizer to support me at first. And I'm not saying that everybody needs a template like this to get started. I think everybody sort of, you find your own way and what works for you. But I tend to use a template, something like this, if I'm with a group of third graders or with a group of 10th graders. And after digging into the why behind it a little bit, we might just practice some of the sketchnoting features like you see here, like lettering and fonts or frames. And while kids are practicing, let's say they're practicing with lettering and fonts, I might, get them started. I might show them a few examples, but then while we're messing around and playing, we'll talk a little bit about why this feature is important, because I just think it can't be said enough that we're not trying just to make cute notes or make our page look pretty. It's really about all those advantages or benefits that I just mentioned. So for lettering, for example, maybe we would want to change up the lettering style if we were showing importance with a vocabulary word or a subheading or something like that. Maybe we would want to use lettering as an organizational tool so that when we look back at our notes or somebody else looks at our notes, we can automatically tell where one topic starts and ends, or where our thinking was with what we thought was interesting or important. So as we work through all of those little boxes there with some of the many sketchnoting features that you could add to your visual lexicon, we just sort of play and talk along the way. And like Monica mentioned on a previous slide, we might have some music playing, and I just want to associate as much pleasure as I can with the launching of this strategy. And then that larger square-ish space in the middle, we might just try a group sketch note together. Sometimes I'll try to find something that I think would be really interesting to the group I'm learning with, and maybe a little bit of making some connections with something they know about, but also some new surprising information. And we'll use that space to try our hand, pun intended, just figuring out what this might look like for us, and just figuring out what style might be our own. And then I just wanted to mention this too, and I'll drop the link into the chat box. This virtual gallery began at the International Literacy Association conference in 2018, and a few other colleagues, Buffy Hamilton and Paula Bork and I, started a collection, and teachers have been dropping in student work from across grade levels and content areas. And so there are dozens and dozens. I don't know, I haven't counted them in a while, but many examples there for you to look at. So I'll drop the link in so you can pick it up that way, or snap the QR code later on if you're viewing this recording. And then last but not least, in getting started, after we might try out that template and play around a little bit, I might give kids a little support, and that is something that works for me. I think it works well for reading with or without a pen or stylus in your hand. But just a reminder that if you get stuck or you're not sure how to glean, important or interesting information out of what you're hearing or reading, or what you want to create, then just going back to ask yourself these two guiding questions: what's important, what's interesting. That will often get me out of a jam. And I also share with kids and teachers that the rules are so almost non-existent here, and that we can include all kinds of things in these types of notes, not just names and dates and facts and figures, but lots of things like controversies and feelings and relationships, and things that might be really complex to us. Those are exactly the kinds of things we want to show up in our notes. And then, just so you know, there's a download of about 40 pages that's free. If you go to this website, you can pick up the why behind. It's really just a passage, a short little passage about the research studies that are pretty current that would support all of this work. And so I'm going to cease sharing my screen now and turn it back to my colleague. Just one moment.
And
there you go.
Awesome. Well, Tanny, that's amazing. I love it. That's your book. It's just beautiful. If you get it, I mean, it's not small. It's pretty good size. Open it up, and it's got most of the things that she just shared. But I think the template is so nice to organize people's thoughts, and like you said, scaffold, because people get scared. They don't know if that's what they're just scared, you know. I think some people are. So I'm going to see, I'm going to resume presenting, go back to my, all right. So hopefully y'all can see Tanny's template again. So that is awesome. I love it. And then Tanny also shared 2 articles that she wrote. This one is a beautiful one. Look at that. And they're hyperlinked, so you can go to the actual article. So this is all about making the thinking concrete, which we know students struggle with that. That is the whole magic key, in my opinion, to comprehension, is to be able to visualize it. And you know, in pre-K, we draw pictures before we write, or I'm sure in kindergarten, Emily's here, I think they probably do the same thing. So I love all your examples here of the different types of sketchnoting. Look, this one is word heavy, but you can see what's going on by the visuals. And then you have some that are more picture heavy. So, but they all mean something to the creator. And then the other article is, I haven't had a chance to read all of them, all through it, but just great information. You know,
Yeah,
visual note taking is the name I guess it had before.
Well, that article actually was, I didn't write it. It was actually written by, it's funny how you just, within our sketchnoting community, end up meeting so many people. But one of the conferences I went to, I ended up sitting by a high school teacher who had not seen visual note taking in action. And she was really curious about what I was doing on my iPad. We struck up a conversation and have stayed in a relationship with each other, back and forth, sharing ideas. But Lauren Zucker wrote it, ended up being published in the National Council of Teachers of English Journal last summer. But it's a great, if we have any high school teachers joining us or listening in on this later, it's a great example of how a high school teacher felt really ill-equipped to try or teach this with her students. And so she wanted to like sort of welcome that feeling you were talking about feeling like you're just not ready, or you can't do it, or you feel uncomfortable, it's out of your comfort zone. And so she talks about her experience herself personally, and then how she turned it around to use that experience to help support her high school students. So it's, I think, really worth the read. She did a great job of being real with how it all unfolded for her.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so helpful. I love this. This is her sketch note reflection of your book, which I do that a lot too. Sometimes I take my time with them, and sometimes I just really scratch it out. It depends on what I need to do with it. So make sure you check out those articles and share them with anybody. So my friend Carrie, hold on, I think I got your slides mixed up. This is my friend Carrie. She's my friend from afar. We've never actually met. It's one of those long distance pen pal kind of things. But we are connected through sketchnoting. I found her on Twitter, and we've been able to come together and create some fun things. So Carrie has a couple of things that I just wanted to pull out from. She teaches a special education middle school class, and I love this right here. There are no rules. You heard Tanny say that. Just bring out the best in them. Don't let them give up, and they will be able to do it. So this is Carrie can draw these adorable animals because she practices them and doesn't give up on them. And then she uses group sketchnoting. But Carrie, I'm not going to say much now. I wanted to see if you will present and just share with them what you want about how you introduce it to your students, your learning mascots, and whatever you think would be helpful to our middle and high and anyone else who's struggling to get it started.
Sure, I'll go ahead and I'll share about the learning mascot because that's what we had planned, and I found some slides that I can use.
Okay.
I don't know that I'll be able to find out how do I.
All right, put your cursor to the bottom of the page.
Yep.
And a white bar pops up.
Yep.
And to the right, it says present.
There we go.
All right. Can everyone see Carrie?
So do I need to share my screen then?
I can see it. Since you're presenting, I think that's what you're doing.
So I can't see you guys when I'm presenting, but you guys can see me?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's
we see you on the side.
That's kind of trippy.
It is a little trippy. I know, right? Sorry.
That's okay. So this is Learning Mascots, and Learning Mascots, I'll share a story with you about it, but Learning Mascots is a single drawing that we can draw over and over and over again, that is always there for us, that can visualize our learning, that can share our ideas and our thinking and our knowledge. It can leave a legacy in our classroom, and it can impact everyone they learn with. And so let me introduce you to Stanley. This is my Learning Mascot, and Stanley came to me one year. I don't even remember how many years ago. I was moving classrooms, and I had just gotten familiar with Snapchat. And I was all about like following all these artists on Snapchat, and they would take pictures and they would draw on their phones. And I thought it was so cool. And I thought, how fun would it be for my classroom to have like a class pet? And I thought, oh my gosh, a hamster would be fantastic. So about an hour and a half later of drawing this picture on my phone, I quickly realized that I couldn't take pictures in my classroom and figure out a way to draw Stanley within my classroom in an efficient time and still teach and do all those fun things. And so Stanley kind of went away. And then this idea of the 100-day project came upon me on Twitter or Instagram. I don't even remember. And it's the idea of drawing one thing or creating one thing or doing one thing over and over and over again for 100 days. And so Stanley and I went on this journey. And every day I would find a way to include Stanley into something in my life. And so he would, be involved. He would watch my daughter do karate. He would help my other daughter create. He stole candy. He was part of our Christmas lights. He helped my one child pull their tooth. He loved to snuggle. And it just became this really fun, creative endeavor of finding ways to draw this crazy little hamster in all parts of my life. And then I met this lady named Dana Ladenberger, and she and I were planning for a workshop at our state conference. And we were struggling with this, the idea of this mindset of the I can't draw mindset. We were still meeting a lot of educators who were just really stuck on this, I can't draw, I don't like to draw, I'm not comfortable with drawing. And so we would meet weekend after weekend at Panera, and we struggled to we knew we needed to find a way that we could get educators to be more free about their drawing, a simple approach that they could do that would be less intimidating. And so Dana shared with me an idea, let me go back. An idea from her classroom about these little drawings that she had done in her classroom with her students. And I was like, you mean like a learning mascot? And so once she said that, and we talked and we collaborated more and more and more, this idea of learning mascots came out of this conversation. And so when I present learning mascots to my classroom, I do exactly what I'm doing with you. And I encourage teachers to tell their story. Tell your students how you found sketchnoting. Tell your students how you found learning mascots. And bring them in on your story, and then let them join in on your journey and journey with them. And so when we're doing learning mascots, I like to have the students, and Monica has the links to these worksheets for you that you can print out for all your students or yourself if you'd like. This would be a great at-home activity. I think it'd be a fun e-learning activity for your students to do. I ask them to grab a piece of paper and list 5 things that they love. So super easy intro activity to do. They're just writing 5 things, a couple of things that they love. It could be a list, it could be 5 things. And so here's one of my kiddos making his list. And then I have them practice their visualizing skills in a kind of a very unintimidating way. So I tell them, imagine each word. So take that, read the word and imagine it in your head. What picture pops in your head? What movie's playing in your head? when you hear this word. And then I have the students doodle that drawing next to the word. And so once we started doing this in my class, wonderful things happened for my students. So here we have Pizza Steve, the polar bear, we have a green blob, and we have a couple basketballs as learning mascots. These are the first kiddos that I ever tried it with. The next year, we had the one up to the left is called This Is Me. And then we have a guinea pig by my teaching assistant. And then we have Sharky Bones, the shark. And then we have Pizza Steve again, because I have students for more than 1 year. This time he became digital. And then the 30 basketball player down below and a cloud. And what's really fun about, and I'll go into this in a little bit more, what's really fun about that 30 guy is one of these basketballs was his first year learning mascot. So the first year when he visualized himself as a learning mascot, or when he visualized his learning mascot, the thing that he could imagine himself as a basketball. But by year 2 of, working on sketchnoting and then working on a whole bunch of other things, right? His learning mascot then transformed into more of a figure that was more like him or more of a human. And I just feel like that was a really powerful moment for me to see how wonderful these learning mascots can be. And they also started showing up everywhere in my classroom once I started doing learning mascots with my students. We would include them in our text. So we would read about vocabulary words, but instead of having to come up with a unique doodle that might be challenging for some students, instead they could use their learning mascot in their text or in their vocabulary to draw that learning mascot, what the learning mascot would think about the vocabulary word, or what would the learning mascot look like doing the vocabulary word, or what would the learning mascot say about the vocabulary word. Our learning mascots would show up on the bottom of our paper, reminding us of all the awesome things that we can do, or giving us a positive affirmation if we were going to try something that was hard or challenging. They could show up in our math notes to remind us that of something that we need to do, or comment on something in our math notes. And then for me, they would show up in my daughter's assignment notebooks, because I just needed, after signing their assignment notebook that they read all year long, I just decided to have some fun and share my learning mascots with my children's teachers. And they would show up on the board when we were teaching also, bringing in some of the students' learning mascots into what we were reading, and having the learning mascots say what they're thinking, or they could think about what they're thinking, and then having the learning mascots act out what we were visualizing, what was happening in the reading. There's Stanley. He started showing up on my board, having all kinds of fun, reminding students of what to do. So the students all know that my learning mascot is Stanley. They know all about him. They know who he is, what his characteristics are like. Here's our bunny in one of our math notes, just sharing about a reminder about what they need to do when they're following the steps. So I really learned that they were more than just doodles on a paper. And as we progressed through using learning mascots, I think we're on year 3 or 4 in my classroom of using learning mascots. They've become, at first they started off as a learning tool for us to use a single image to help students connect with what they're doing, to kind of model that sketchnoting approach. So we take in information with our eyes and our ears and we visualize it. But instead of having to recreate a new and unique drawing, which can be intimidating or hard sometimes, they would always imagine their learning mascot doing that single thing, and then that learning mascot would become part of their notes or their sketch note, or reflect on something. But what I realized is, after doing this for 3 or 4 years, and then having with a social worker on my team, we would co-teach something sometimes, we realized that a lot of what the students were sharing about us when they create their learning mascot story. So we have pastel, students give their age and height, and I gave a template of this to Monica as well. It shares where they live. It gives 5 facts about who the mascot is. And then my favorite part, 2 favorite parts are the 5 facts about the learning mascot, and then also the legacy. And so the legacy for this learning mascot is that he wanted to help people with his homework, and he wanted to make people happy when they're sad. And he wanted to be able to pop out on a test whenever it's really hard. And when I think back to this student, knowing who this student was, he was kind of silly in class sometimes, and he would act out sometimes. But then when I look at this, he really did want to make people happy, and not being happy was uncomfortable for him, or that tests were hard and that homework were hard. But his legacy was to help people. And so it gave me really wonderful insight on the strengths that a student could possess in their learning mascot, that they would want that could offset their own learning weaknesses, or just it could also be a great mirror into who they are. And here is Sharky Bones, the 10th. And this student, you know, he really wanted to know everything. He really, getting A's in class was really important for him. So if you read his 5 facts, Sharky Bones gets an A+ in every class in school, and he doesn't even need to attend school. And he is famous for catching fish and remembering history. This student loved history. He also loved the Houston Astros, and his dad was his idol. If you look at this Learning Mascots origins, his dad taught him all his powers, and he was born in Houston. That's where his favorite baseball team was. So it became a really fun reflection into who students are. And then so when I started to reflect on who Stanley is to me, I realized that Stanley is fearless, and he's sassy, and he's silly, and he loves life, and he's trouble, and he knows it. And I realized deep down inside, those are all the parts of me that I really wanted others to see. And Stanley was just there to help me show them. So after I go through some of this, I have the students then take the list of all the things that they love. And after hearing my story, and I also have some videos in the playlist that I share with Monica that can help you understand how you can bring this this idea to your classroom. There's a 3-series video on learning mascots. I have students brainstorm their learning mascots. I think sharing your learning mascot is a super powerful thing to do with your students. It makes you vulnerable and shows them a piece of you that they may not expect to know. And it also gives them permission to take a risk with you. So these are all the things that I would have up for students to know. If you have the template up for learning mascots, it'll guide them through this. And I share out the learning mascots are displayed for the whole entire year. So we have a huge display of learning mascots. They have their posters up on our wall, and they're all over the classroom. This has become bigger because now we're beyond, the first year. This is now 4 years in. The social worker and I have worked closely with learning mascots, who's going to share how that's finally impacted learning mascots even more. So we have learning mascots all around. We've created, if you look at the talk bubbles up above, learning mascots have gone beyond just being a learning asset, and now they're an inner voice for our students, things that our learning mascots can say to us when we're feeling a certain way. What are some words that they can give us, encouragement that they can give? And if you saw the wall all the way over to the right of this wall, we also have a learning mascots legacy wall. So when my students graduate from middle school, we take their learning mascot from this side of the wall, and we put it over on the legacy wall, because they might leave us in our classroom, but they've always left us with their legacy. And it's just a fun way to keep the learning mascot spirit alive. And so the last thing that's come upon this, and this is from some work with a social worker that I work with, is taking students learning mascots and taking the student, and what thoughts do you have that might be kind of intrusive thoughts, or thoughts that might stop you from doing what your goal is. And then the big POW sign is what your learning mascot can tell you or give you that will help deflect some of those thoughts that you might have that keep you from achieving your goals. And it's just become a wonderful way to either combat negative thoughts, or thoughts that keep you from going after what you want, or and then using the learning mascot is kind of like a powerful asset. So we're learning that in my classroom, there are several layers of the learning mascot that just make it a really powerful tool beyond just using it as a single doodle to help us enhance learning. And I thought that this would just be really fun to share with you guys. It's a single doodle that students can draw over and over and over again that can enhance learning and improve teaching. That's it.
Well, Carrie, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to talk. I want to cry just thinking about like our kids right now. Like social emotional support is so valuable and so important for them, because we don't know what they're going through. We don't know who's supporting them or not. And we're throwing all these new technology things at them to learn at home. I mean, it's just, there's a lot going on. And I just, I know this is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. But if teachers have that mindset of speaking these things into their students' lives without the pressure of it coming from them, like, this isn't me. This is, Cool Joe or whatever. You know, it's deflecting the personal onto the mascot, because some of our kids aren't in a situation where they can be vulnerable. You know, it shows weakness. So I don't know.
Well, it also allows some of that deflection for the student too, right? So if I ask Janie a question and she might not know the answer, but Janie, what would Basketball Bomb say about that passage? And sometimes just that simple kind of mind shift can allow students to tap into different things that we know are already there. And you and I talked about too. I mean, I think all ages could have a super fun time with drawing their learning mascots and making them like a flat Stanley thing. So tonight I want you to take your learning mascot and take a picture of him while you're reading, and then share it out on our Google Classroom or whatever learning management system that you use. It could be a really fun way to stay connected in a different way right now.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, okay, so can you guys see the slides again or not?
Yep.
You can? Okay, good. I was just going to say that, you know, I wanted to emphasize this isn't just for online or offline. I mean, there are different ways for kids to doodle online. Like several of our Google tools have in-screen sketching type capabilities. But, you know, if they could just get a piece of paper and create their mascot and kind of have it with them as a support during all of this, that might be really cool. Okay, so these are all the links that Carrie mentioned. These are the sheets that she has created so that you can sort of take your students or yourself. Honestly, you should probably do this yourself. I'll probably do this myself before I would try to tell somebody. But if you want to use it, just make it, just click that button.
And the template sheets, now that I'm thinking about it, are just they're PDFs, but the learning mascot poster, that one's typable, and I made it into individual text boxes on purpose for you guys special, so that if you want to share it out to kids, it'll be all set for them to type right on it.
Okay, so they could add it to Google Classroom if that's what they're using.
Mm-hmm. And then the teachers can come in and comment, and yep.
Okay, cool. All right. And then here's the playlist she mentioned on YouTube, and
it's gonna play.
Oh. But there you are.
There I am.
Yeah, but it's muted. So Carrie's channel, so there's her playlist on that, but her channel is just chock full of I used to always share her first video called My Pencil Made Me Do It, and it was let's see, where are your?
There they are. It's
so weird how they organize this.
It's very weird.
But she just has do you have it in a playlist too, like how to sketchnote?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I think it's over. If it's have to hit the over arrow. Oh,
is that it?
Nope.
Nope. Well, anyways, that's where to find her and her stuff. It's just there's a lot of stuff that you could use it with your classroom. Those are supposed to be ours. I don't know why it's so close. Thank you so much. So Carrie, can you say one more thing about your students? I know we can't group Sketchnote now because of what we're going through, but when teachers get back to school, they might have this mindset kind of going in. Tell us a little bit about your students here with their group Sketchnote.
So I do something similar to what Tanny does in terms of using a template. And for the longest time, I thought that my kids didn't need a template. I wanted there to be no rules, and we were going to just dive right into sketchnoting, and I was going to teach them it the best way that I could, and they were just going to, instantly connect to it. But I have learned that sometimes students need a little bit of scaffolding. I like to, and I'm pretty sure Tanny would agree with me, I like to make it just a tool that's there when we need it, but then when it's time to remove it, it goes away. So as soon as we've built and modeled those really great thinking skills and also organizational building skills, I like to keep it as long as we need it, but then take it away when our students are ready to make it their own. And so we use a tool in my classroom with our speech pathologist called the EET tool, which is an expanding expressing tool. And it's a way to enhance and develop language expression. And so what we've done here, while we're all sitting at a two big tables together, actually, is I've taken the EET and taken it away from the way it was built up. And it was really great because it had very great anchoring things like it's like green, group, blue, do. What does it sound like? What does it look like? And so we took that, but we made it a sketch note. And so what we're doing here in this picture is we're watching a video for history. We don't read a book, we watch a video. And about every 30 seconds, I stop the video and I ask students, very similar to what Tanny does too, with that kind of verbal dialogue to help build up that skill. Is it new? Is it interesting? Or does it make you feel something? Or is it important to you? Does it feel important? And then we write it down either on a Post-it note or somewhere on that sketch note. But we do it together. And so we keep doing that in that way. And they keep hearing me repeat that phrase over and over and over again, so that hopefully that phrase becomes automatic in their own head when they're trying to dissect and connect with information. And so we sit there usually with Post-it notes the first couple of times, because I love Post-it notes because they hold a certain piece of information, but don't allow students to write tons of stuff on them. And then they're also very movable. So it offers for some great conversations for us to, where do you think this should go on the sketch note? With what group should it go with? What category should it go with? And so it offers a lot of different kinds of skill building opportunities for me. But really what I'm trying to do is model, being a great learner, and also model what sketchnoting is, what the process is.
Yeah, and it's as small as a sketch note, or as big as like you're doing on the table, or graphic recording, like when they do it on the wall and all fancy.
Awesome. And then eventually we'll start as a group, and then I'll break them up into pairs, and then eventually they'll be on their own. I am pretty strict about, we are paper and pencil for a very, very long time, until they really are strong visualizers and they really know the process. And then I might bring into some technology tools if we need to, if they're interested in that. But we really stick with paper and pencil. I really like it too, because, it just makes us happy. And there's just something about putting your pencil to paper that just changes your mindset and makes you more available to learn. It's also a really great calming, it calms our body too. So we really stick with paper and pencil almost exclusively.
Well, I was going to say, the science is there. There is a mind change. It connects to the channels in your brain in a way that it's like trying to, to go somewhere on all the highways with all the super fast car. I mean, it's just amazing the difference that using your hands to create it makes, and then adding the visuals and adding the words, and it's amazing.
Yeah. And even my kiddos that have trouble with spelling, I just tell them to do your best. And sometimes that works. And it's this most freeing experience, because they no longer have to worry about their spelling. Because I'll ask them, like, who wrote this? And they'll say, I did. And I'm like, what does it say? And they can tell me what it says, even if it's not spelled correctly. Yeah. But if they really are struggling with their spelling, then we'll pull out their technology and let them tap into those resources. And then we'll just print out, the notes that they've taken.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
You're welcome.
So another person that was going to pop in is Pam Hubler. And the reason I asked her is because I know she loves to share this strategy with other people, and she does it herself. So here's a couple of links. I'm not going to go through them right now, but she's got a blog post, and then she curated a bunch of resources in these. So like this one, I think, is a Wakelet. No, that's her blog. Okay. So this is where she's explaining, there's Carrie. My pencil made me do it. And then there's her Wakelet collection, which is basically like she took tons of resources and curated them, put them in one place for you to find them. So she likes to blog. She likes to share on Twitter. And so check out those resources. I'm curious if Jessica or Tanny could speak to gifted students who may or may not look at this and say, that's not for me, that's for babies. Have you had any experience in your work with gifted high ability students? Because I don't want people to think this is for struggling people or people that are learning English, or this is for everybody.
Yeah, I certainly have. And I work with gifted students here in my home district, which is in the Cincinnati area. And actually, some of the experiences I can recall where I had the toughest time, how should I put it, getting kids to buy in or think that this strategy would be something helpful to them either now and in the future, was actually with gifted identified students or kids of high ability who maybe, and I don't like to stereotype or cast the same characteristics over a big group of people, but this has been my experience that sometimes you have kids who might not be ready to take a risk in front of others, or might want to or they do feel like they're like, want to get it right the first time, and
Mm-hmm.
that there is a right answer for this. And so just dispelling a lot of those misconceptions. Yeah, I think it just takes time, and
Agreed.
an environment where we just keep being an example for kids of vulnerability and creativity in ways that maybe aren't exactly like, drawing something that's beautiful, but getting your thinking on the page and emphasizing that your thinking matters most. So that's that one slide that I showed. I don't know if you remember, but it was like a circle, like a plate. That actually was created in a classroom of gifted students where we were having trouble just getting started. And so we had to take a step back and just say, like, what are all the things that could be in a sketch note? And it was almost like we had to sort of quote unquote bless those things. Like, yes, it can be a question you have. It can be an honest feeling you have. It doesn't have to be just like the kind of notes that you've been trained to take in other classes where it's more regurgitation or copying or just looking at that PowerPoint slide and going to it as fast as you can to try to get everything down.
Right.
It's not that at all. And I think once we get past that, then kids really start to think, well, yeah, this could be for me. And I've had kids say to me after getting through those tough stages, Mrs. McGregor, this is the first time I've ever cared about my notes. And so when you hear something like that, then you're getting someplace.
Totally.
That is awesome. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. I'm sorry, I don't have my video on because I have a toddler running around.
No problem.
I'll just go with the microphone. I noticed one thing is that when I tried this out with teachers, they were very self-conscious about their ability or their perceived lack of ability on drawing and being artists. And so Tanny's little template, the little placemat, was really good of just like practicing little icons and drawings, and that it didn't have to be these masterpieces. And the other thing with gifted students, sometimes they are used to things coming so easily and so naturally. And so they struggle sometimes with sketchnoting because there isn't just a one answer, and it sometimes taps into creativity that they are not used to tapping into. They're really good at like recall and knowing, and trying to put that knowledge in a different form sometimes can be challenging, which I love to see. Our more high performing students get a little squirmy and have to get outside of their comfort zone. So I think it's a good strategy from, our struggling students to our high performing students. There's an entry point for everyone, whether it's, art is their strength or note taking is their strength. But I do think there's benefit to using this with students, and I think it's great. I do it for myself when I'm learning as well. So it's just a good practice overall.
Yes, I agree. So one thing that this is something I created that an author contacted me and said she wanted a scaffolded sketch note for her chapters in her book. So this is for chapter 9. It's called Hacking Questions, the book. But this was, and none of this was difficult to do. So don't, like, all these things in the background was an app I used to like duplicate my little doodle. But what she was doing was guiding the reader through the path of the content. And so we scaffolded with an image there. And so like now she said her participants want the visuals gone. Like they want the ability to create their own sketch note now that they've seen this. But this supported them in their attempt to begin sketchnoting. But every chapter in this book has the same format, and so we could do this. So you could think about your lessons if you like if you use workshop model or whatever, engage, explore, whatever you could come up with, and I would be so happy to help you do this. You could come up with a template that you could give students to support them, like a scaffold, and then, challenge them, say, are you ready to throw away the training training wheels and go for it yourself. But like this has all the elements of sketchnoting. It has containers, which is this little wavy thing is a container. This is a container. It has fonts. You can see I wrote this in a different way and that in a different way. It has the visuals. Carrie, what else? Let's see. It doesn't have any color coding, but you could add that in yourself. It doesn't have the lines. Like we could do lines saying it's going this way to that way, and then whoops, all the way here. Mine tend to go in the like read a book kind of format. But you know, there are different elements to sketchnoting that just help you visualize, could understand, but this is just an idea. I worked on this in my car, and so it's just boxes and just little scribbles, and I use the noun project to help me with the doodles. So like here, I just put I think I put the word conquer maybe or something, and then this image kind of came up, or I was thinking about a mountain, and like, yay, I did it. So this is just an idea of something that you could do, and like I said, I would be so happy to help you. You know, you could create this for your students, push it out for them while they're listening to a podcast, or while they're you know, reading your notes, watching a video. And one of the earlier slides I mentioned YouTube videos. They can slow down the playback speed by hitting this little gear and then slow it down. Like I slowed down this first video because it just goes too fast for me. But, you know, if it's visual, you could slow it way down. Turn off the sound so it doesn't sound like womp womp. But, you know, like if you're trying to watch a ton of these webinars from, you know, all this training, this virtual training, speed up the sound. You know, like I've sped up some people to 1.5 so that I could get more. So you're not gonna be able to take notes from that, but playback speed is very helpful for you if you're trying to do something you know, with a video. So these are some other ideas. This guy named Doug Neal has a YouTube channel. So he talks about how he introduces the sketchnoting to high schoolers. I love this one, and this is actually what I plan to do with the PD that I'm taking in during this time, is a visual type of Cornell note. So he shows you how to take the Cornell note that we usually teach middle and high and that sort of thing, and add the visuals to it. So that video is linked right there, but just super helpful to add words, because you're already synthesizing with the Cornell note, but now you're adding a visual to it, and it's just like power-packed dual coding. It's just amazing. Last year, Edutopia came up with this video that just kind of blew up. But why kids should draw, and the science is embedded. So if you need to convince yourself or students or parents or your administrator, anybody, your SPED department, this has the why. It's a really good video. Let's see, do we have any questions? So, and then this is a cute one, doodle word. So this is, you know, maybe for the one that's a little more artistic, but this person draws out different words in visual. So I just love it. So the font is the word. So this is read. Watching this is so soothing, and the music is just, it's really pretty. It's one of those probably iTunes or iMovie soundtracks, but it's just really comforting. But this is a good thing you might give your students as a brain break, you know, say, you know, spend 10 minutes doing doodle words, you know, draw out the words that you're thinking during your lunch or whatever. Just an idea as we're separated from each other. Here's the selfie sketch note I mentioned. Sylvia Duckworth is the one that I first found, and then it kind of led me to Carrie and Tanny and everybody else. And I have her book as well. But, you know, if they do a sketch note all about themselves, then that's going to be an easy entry level, maybe. I don't know. They might be intimidated. I don't know. But it might be something to try with them. And here's just tons more resources. There are games they can play while they're at home to practice drawing. So auto draw is not really a game, but basically you're going to draw something and the computer's going to try to guess what it is. And it kind of gives you confidence in, you know, because what you want is something like that. And so, see, I was trying to draw a sailboat. but yeah. Anyways, so there's one, and it's kind of a challenge because it's like, well, that was pretty bad. Let's try again. And then Quick Draw is a game where you play against the computer. And so you basically try to draw something that it would recognize. I'm doing it with a mouse.
Oh, I know. It's the Eiffel Tower.
So see, it figured out what I was drawing. It didn't have to be perfect, but it builds your visual vocabulary. You're kind of like, it strengthens your sketching muscles, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, you know, when we get back to school, it could be a bell ringer, but now it could just be a break, you know, or a fun, creative time to throw into your checklist for what the students do. Our friend Omar Lopez, that we know from Twitter, he's amazing. He actually did all these doodles. I didn't know that, but I saved them in here because, see, they can be as simple as, you know, as this box here, and we know that's like a whiteboard. See how these are all very simple. They don't have to be complicated. There's a noun project for inspiration. And then last but not least, my friends have these amazing books. There's Tanny's book. There's Carrie's book. Sylvia Duckworth's book. Carrie, you know Sunny Brown, don't you? See, there's Mike Rohde's book, but I have a list to the, basically a search on Amazon. We know this person, Nicole Carter, she wrote a book also about sketchnoting. There's Carrie's book. Oh, Carrie, your Kindle version is $10. Wow. Okay, there's Tanny's beautiful book, Carrie's beautiful book. Y'all, these are so you just want to look at them all the time. There's the Sketchnote handbook. Sometimes it's on sale, so if you put it in your cart, or any of these books, if you want them, put them in your cart, and Amazon will let you know when they go on sale. I actually got mine for like $12 one day because it happened to go on sale. Sylvia's book is on sale. So there are lots of visual note-taking resources on Amazon that you could.
Everything's on sale.
Yeah. And so Carrie and I came up with something called Pass the Sketchnote, and this is in Tanny's book right here. And this is a video Carrie did to wrap it up. But it's a way for people to sketchnote together, but from different places. So if you want to know how it works, click the YouTube video. And if you want to sign up, because next week we're going to start a new one, you click that hashtag, and there's a sign up for a Pass the Sketchnote that we're going to try to do with adults and with children next week. And it's not going to be a one and done, like a one-day thing. It's going to be a slow one.
We have Monica, we have like over 180 adults signed up right now and over 40 children. So it's going to be amazing. And yeah, so you'll get a whole day to complete the Sketchnote, which is nice. And I'm sure, Monica, you'd be happy to share our how-to pass the Sketchnotes. I know I did it in my district with a group of teachers, with 25 teachers. It was super fun. We did like a slow inter-office mail.
Wow.
Pass the Sketchnote, paper, pen. It was super fun. So there's lots of different ways you can do that.
And Tanny's sketch is right here that she added, but these people were all around the world, and I thought it was so awesome that they tried to add, some of them add their flags. So this guy is in Italy, and so they passed it to each other and just built on a theme. So I'll add the visuals to this slideshow when we're done. So thank you very much. I appreciate y'all taking the time to learn about sketchnoting with students. And so if you, Carrie, will you pop the link to the slides again into the chat, just in case someone didn't get it? I forgot to put it on this slide.
HCS, right?
Capital HCS Sketchnotes.
Yep, got it.
So again, my name is Monica Spillman. It's very small here, but Spillman_Monica@hcde.org. And thank you so much to Tanny and Carrie for taking some time to share with us from your expertise. Just so you know, I created this with Slides Mania. I didn't draw all these awesome doodles or format everything. So if you want to find some fun slide backgrounds, do that. And then on this next slide, hold on, where'd it go? I need to pop in a what's the word I'm trying to say? What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say I need to pop in the form, the feedback form. I'm sorry, I cannot think and move my mouse at the same time, apparently. So I'm sorry I'm having to search around for it. I'm going to grab the link to the feedback form. The county would love to know if this was helpful to you. And I think it's showing proof that you attended. If you have any other questions, if you need more information on this subject, or if there's any way that they can help you. So let me, sorry, I should have had that in the slide. There it is. And tomorrow, if you need some specific assistance, go to that same spreadsheet where you found this link and sign up for one-on-one office hours. So please fill out the feedback form and go sign up for one-on-one help with technology. I will be glad to help you with any of this that's relating to sketchnoting. So please reach out to me. If that is all, I will end the recording and just very much appreciate y'all being here. Does anybody have any questions before I end the recording?
Thank you, Monica.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, well, I'm going to take the silence as a no, but please reach out to me. I sure appreciate. Oh, I hear something.
I laughed.
You laughed. Okay, no laughing. All right. Well, see you on the Twitters and all that stuff. Appreciate it. And I can't wait to finally meet you guys one day in person. We will do this once the world is open again. So anyways, y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.
Everyone be safe. Stay home.
Yes.
Stay home. That's right. Wash your hands and stay home. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
No.